Those who reside in the town of Collinsport know that the ghosts inhabiting the great house are not so easily dismissed as undigested bits of beef and fragments of underdone potato. There is more of grave than gravy about them, for their sole purpose is to unleash Yuletide terror at Collinwood. Welcome to Terror at Collinwood. I am your hostess, Danielle Galerter, aka Penny Dreadful. And wow, have I got a show for you today, folks. We are in the holiday spirit here, or is it bah humbug? I don't know. We're going to find out in just a minute here on Sunday, December 19th, 2021, via the Smartphone Theater Company YouTube channel at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. The Collinsport Theater of the Airwaves proudly presents Dark Shadows, A Christmas Carol. This will be a Reader's Theater presentation of Charles Dickens' beloved Yuletide tale, featuring several members of the Dark Shadows cast in what is sure to be the most legendary event of Christmas past, present, and future you are ever going to witness. This is something you will not want to miss. Mark your calendars. And I am thrilled and delighted to introduce three very special guests here today who will fill us in on all these spooky and festive proceedings. First, I have Ansel H. Faraj, who is my first returning guest on the podcast. He is, of course, the Rondo
Thank you for having me again, Danielle.
Oh my God, it's a pleasure, Ansel. You know, you have the record for the longest episode of Terror at Collinwood thus far.
This does not surprise me.
It was, people to this day still message me about that episode. Like, I love Ansel's enthusiasm. People love that episode, and with good reason, because you're awesome. You are the Rondo Award-winning filmmaker, director, screenwriter, and producer behind the likes of Loon Lake, the Theater Fantastique series, the Dr. Mabuse series, The Last Case of August T. Harrison, and many more. And then, of course, I have here Richard Halpern, who is an actor, entertainer, song stylist, and tribute artist. He's billed, he's billed as Mr. Tin Pan Alley and has performed his music all over the United States. He was also the MC at the Dark Shadows festivals, a member of the Collinsport Players, has appeared on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, Jimmy Kimmel Live, and I love this, is the top Austin Powers impersonator in the United States and probably the world. Groovy, baby, I have to say.
Groovy, baby. Thank you, Danielle. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh my goodness, it is a pleasure having you. And of course, my next guest needs no introduction to Dark Shadows fans, but of course she's going to get one. Absolutely. Kathryn Leigh Scott is here. She's a renowned actress, writer, and publisher who's played Maggie Evans, Josette DuPres Collins, Rachel Drummond, Kitty Soames, and the parallel time Maggie Collins on Dark Shadows. She was Maggie Evans in House of Dark Shadows. In addition, she has an extensive resume in theater, film, and television, having appeared in the likes of Star Trek: The Next Generation, The Incredible Hulk, Hammer House of Horror, Dan Curtis's The Turn of the Screw, Ansel's Loon Lake, and so much more. She, of course, founded Pomegranate Press, through which she has released many books about a variety of topics, including Dark Shadows. Kathryn, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Danielle. It's lovely to be here.
Awesome. Well, I mentioned Loon Lake. I want to mention this here at the top of the show. I hear that Ansel, Loon Lake, and the Dr. Mabuse series, the Rondo Award-winning Dr. Mabuse, is getting a Blu-ray release. Can you talk a little bit about that before we dive into A Christmas Carol?
Yeah, we did the first Dr. Mabuse movie 10 years ago already, which is kind of frightening. And now they're coming, all three are coming out on a 2-disc Blu-ray special edition, and brand new deleted footage. And Jerry Lacey and Nathan Wilson and I, we recorded a commentary track for the first film. So there's a bunch of new stuff. And Loon Lake is streaming. Loon Lake is available on DVD and Blu-ray. It's on Tubi TV. And also August T. Harrison with Jerry Lacey is streaming on Tubi TV and Amazon Prime. So yeah, you can check out Brand New Adventures with the Dark Shadows cast on Amazon, and just Google.
Wonderful. And Kathryn, you were in Loon Lake, as was David Selby. How was that experience?
Well, it was wonderful. For one thing, I'm from Robbinsdale, Minnesota. I'm from a small town, and what was really wonderful is that one of my brothers and his wife are actually playing extras in the film, and they loved it. And because it's a period piece, and David and I play husband and wife in the older part. We actually filmed in a real vintage house and I think for me, the best part of the whole film was being in this authentic little house and seeing how people actually cooked in these little stoves and how tiny everything was. And it was wonderful to work with David Selby again. We were in Dark Shadows 50 years ago. To be able to work again in entirely different roles, it was wonderful.
Awesome. I love it. When is it being released, Ansel, on Blu-ray?
Loon Lake is already on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
But Mabuse, the Dr. Mabuse trilogy will be on Blu-ray the start of January.
Okay, wonderful. All right, folks, definitely check that out. You will not be disappointed, I guarantee. Now, let's talk about this amazing, sure to be legendary event, Dark Shadows, A Christmas Carol. I've read over the years, that Dan Curtis, back when the Dark Shadows was originally on, had this idea to do a TV special featuring the Dark Shadows actors in A Christmas Carol. And now this is actually happening through the magic of the internet, through the magic of Zoom and smartphone theater. So first, I'd like to hear what role does each of you have in this production in terms of what you're doing to make it happen. So we can just
I'll answer this first. Okay, Ansel is involved with the special effects, the music.
Okay.
The special things that you're gonna be seeing while we're doing it.
Okay.
Kathryn is one of the cast members. I'm directing it. I adapted the adaptation. This was actually a radio script that was given. Actually, I think it was Patrick McRae that gave that script last year because we were thinking of maybe doing it last Christmas on the heels of our very successful Halloween Zoom Dark Shadows reunion.
Yes.
And it just kind of sat for a year. And I approached Kathryn. I said, Kathryn, what about, can we do this? And she said, well, send me this script. So this is interesting because what we've got a script and a presentation that was produced and written for one medium that is now being presented in a different medium.
Yeah.
This thing was originally presented on the radio. So now it's being done on Zoom, but it's not as easy to do a straight radio play on Zoom because that's a completely different format. And there are certain technical obstacles which we have addressed and we have taken care of. So, as I should say, pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. There's a few men behind the curtain. There's a few women behind the curtain that you don't need to pay attention to because what you see is what you're supposed to see, but you're not going to know what's going on behind the scenes. But there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes. This was a technical challenge on some fronts, but we have addressed everything. And it's going to be marvelous. We can't let you in on everything we've done because you just, that's just too much minutia and everything. But to answer your question, Ansel and I, we're on camera only as the announcers. Okay. I think I'm playing one of the carolers. But that's it. I did not want to be in it. Ansel didn't want to be in it. We wanted only the cast of Dark Shadows. Whatever roles they have, if it's one line, it's two lines, let's skip it. So we are bookending it with as announcers, And as I say, there's a brief caroling thing that's it. So yeah, I hope that answers that question regarding the three of us that you asked.
Okay,
about.
so this was your idea to make this happen? Were you spearheading this, or?
Well, as I say, I discussed it with Kathryn. Kathryn is she's like the matriarch, and I've told her this. She's the mom, of all things Dark Shadows. And this goes back to the 80s when she wrote my scrapbook memories of Dark Shadows.
Oh my goodness.
Which I had. And they were showing the advertisements for that on on channel 56, the UHF channel, which, they don't have UHF anymore, but they still have
there are a few here and there.
Yeah, but that was the snow channel where everything was fuzzy. And they showed Dark Shadows reruns on there. So Kathryn had said, I have this book, Scrapbook Memories of Dark Shadows. So that was just one of many. She's written so many books. Anyway, she's been kind of like the go-to person for this type of a thing. And then, of course, once we had the pandemic, nothing was going on. We couldn't do live festivals. Then that was done. So we got the idea to do the live chat last year at Halloween, which was great. And as I say, this Christmas Carol was kind of both of us had discussed it. And as I say, Patrick McRae, who created the graphics that you see, the flyer, he, being a drama teacher and a historian and a big Dark Shadows person, found this script. And it's this transcript of a broadcast that was done in the 1930s. And as I said, it kind of stayed where it was. We figured this is going to be too much to do right on the heels of the other one. But yes, earlier, a few months ago, I thought, this might be a lot of fun. Let me talk with Kathryn and see what she says. And her response was, you know what, send me the script. Let's look. And that's how it started. And the adaptation has been adapted. We cast it. We put the sound effects, everything has been there. Kathryn, being a publisher and an editor, had the forethought to put everyone's name and their role in every line. So whatever line is, that who the actor is, what the role is. It's like a blueprint.
So
that's it. So it was kind of a group effort. I kind of just said, hey, could we do this? And that's how it kind of spearheaded.
And just speaking from my side, when I was a kid, and I remember seeing the Paley Center, the Museum of Television and Radio panel, and Dan Curtis saying one of his dreams was to do Christmas Carol. And I was always like, oh, that would have been so cool. So for us to now finally do it, we're wanting this to be the best production possible. And everybody's just, going the extra mile and really rehearsing. And we're trying to get the best presentation possible for all the fans out there. And so as Richard's saying, Kathryn, we're making sure everybody's on top of their lines, and we're going to have a smooth production. It's wonderful. It's live, but it's going to be great.
Now, Kathryn, of course, Kathryn, I think we all know Kathryn is, you say matriarch, she's like the dynamo who push. She's like always like, you have done so much to keep the pulse of Dark Shadows pumping, because I remember in the 80s in 1986, when I saw my scrapbook memories on the shelf at Walden Books, I'd been watching Dark Shadows in syndication. My uncle Valdemar, and that's his name, Uncle Val, we call him Uncle Val. He was a big Dark Shadows fan in the 60s. And so was my mom, who said, I told her, I said, I'm going to be interviewing the actress who played Maggie Evans today. And she said, make sure you tell her that your family was all Dark Shadows fans too. So there you go. I was watching it in syndication. I was a huge fan of the show, and I walked into Walden Books, and there was my scrapbook memories of Dark Shadows, and my mind was blown. I was so excited that there was a book about Dark Shadows written by you. And of course, I immediately bought it, and I picked up all of the Pomegranate Press books over the years. And you have continued to do so much to keep Dark Shadows going and coming up with really great ways to do that. So I want to thank you just on behalf of the fan community for that, because that's a huge thing, and it's really important. And I
thank you, Danielle. You know, I wish you could have walked into one of the Walden bookstores where Jonathan, Fred, and I were signing books.
Oh my
You know,
goodness.
nothing happens, you know, with just one person. I'm so glad I wrote that book. Um, you know, I wrote it because somebody asked me to write a magazine article. It was right after Joel Crothers and Grayson Hall passed away. And I wrote the magazine piece, submitted it, and then kept on writing. And that was the genesis of my scrapbook Memories of Dark Shadows. And I really feel a sense of family with all of our Dark Shadows actors. You know, I really want to thank Richard for mentioning Patrick McRae.
Yeah.
He's a wonderful, he's a school teacher.
Mhm.
And he was the one who brought this Orson Welles version of A Christmas Carol to me a year and a half ago. It's
Mhm.
already that long. And I wish he were more involved in this production. And, you know, fellas, maybe we can make him a little bit more involved
Yeah.
when we do it. He's wonderfully talented. And again, timing is everything.
Mhm.
Dan Curtis couldn't pull off A Christmas Carol when he wanted to do it. The timing was right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that Richard thought of it when he did. We were already deep into November, and I think that I think we were all just very anxious to work together again and to have an occasion to be together. And there wasn't one single actor that I called who didn't jump aboard.
Yeah.
I'm particularly pleased that when I called Alexandra Malka Isles,
Yes.
she said, "Oh, absolutely, this is wonderful," and started, you know, we had this wonderful conversation. I don't think I've spoken to her in about 8 or 9 years, something
Mhm.
like that. And David Hennessy, I wrote an article about
Yes.
him earlier this year. And David said, everybody thinks I'm a recluse. He said, I'm a hotelier and a restaurateur. Why would anybody think I'm a
Yeah, I read that article. It was a
And
great interview. Yeah.
I was so pleased because David and I had a very special relationship. So once I called Nancy Barrett, Alexandra, and David Hennessy, and they all jumped aboard. And I think Richard had reached out to David Selby already.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everybody leaped on board. There wasn't one single person that hesitated.
Yeah.
And we have our company. One thing I do want to say is that in addition to Patrick McRae not having a greater role in this production, I also want to mention that I reached out to Sharon Smith. She's the only one who couldn't join us for family reasons.
Yeah.
And, you know, there are only 12 roles. And so therefore, Terrain Crawford, Donna McKechnie, Donna Wandry, Roger Davis, all of these other lovely actors who are part of the Dark Shadows family will simply have to join us on another project another time.
Yes. And I hope that's a hint of things to come. I do.
Well, that would be lovely.
And Jimmy Hall as well.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to do it and then realized that he couldn't. I mean, he too, like Sharon, had family obligations
Right.
that would take him out of it, but he's going to be listening.
I think the really interesting thing is that of the 12 of us who are going to be performing in A Christmas Carol, 5 of us were there on the very first day of rehearsal for Dark Shadows in April of 1966.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal.
It
And
really
that's
is.
Brian, Alexandra, Nancy, David, and me. 5 of us in this.
Well, not Dave. Well, David Hennessy. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he was there in the beginning. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we have, this cast list is
5 of us were on the very first day.
Yeah.
I think
It's just an amazing cast list. David Selby, Kathryn Leigh Scott, Mitchell Ryan, Laura Parker, James Storm, Marie Wallace, Jerry Lacey, Nancy Barrett, David Hennessy, and Alexandra Moltke Isles. Wow.
This is a once in a lifetime. We won't be able to get these particular people together to do something like this. I don't know that we'll ever be able to do it again. This is a very special occasion, and that's the way I'm addressing it.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
one night.
Legendary, folks. Absolutely. I have to say, you mentioned Patrick McBride. I had Patrick and Wallace McBride as well on this podcast in episode 10. Yeah, because they've done a lot to keep Dark Shadows in the zeitgeist too, through the Collinsport Historical Society and the Dark Shadows Daybook and all of those great things that they're doing. So I'm glad Patrick is an integral part of this, and he's going to be doing a sound effect. Is that what is?
No, Patrick did the graphics.
Graphics. Okay.
But we can also credit him actually for bringing the script.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which has, as I said, we had the notion of doing this a year ago, courtesy of him, and it as I said, we just decided, this is too much.
Right.
We did one thing, and now we got to do this and this.
Yeah.
And so
it's a long, it'd be a long show to do the entire, story.
No, what I'm saying is we did.
No, timing is everything. It was too much then. People were still too involved with COVID and too many other things. Right now, I think one of the reasons why this all came together is that people really want to get out again, connect in a very real way. And by the way, the other person that we really should mention is Todd Felderstein. He has been so incredibly helpful to Richard and to Ansel, who are experienced already. But, Todd has done about 60 of these, and he also did the technical work and hosted a play with a friend of mine, Susan Sullivan, who was also in Dark Shadows, by the way. But Susan Sullivan wrote a little play that we did on Zoom.
I watched that. That was amazing. Yeah.
And with David Selby and Mitch Ryan.
Yes.
And all of us interconnect with, Dom and Greg and Falcon Crest and Dark Shadows.
Yeah.
So we're very close. But it was Todd who put that production together with Asad Khalid directing it. So he really knows how to do this. And, we're still in our infancy with Zoom, even though it's been around for a couple of years. Yeah. There are so many technical challenges with it. And I'm sure that Richard and Ansel really appreciate having somebody like Todd working on this with us. And
yes, absolutely. He came in and was like a godsend and knew exactly. And Todd, of course, is being the technical director, and he's hosting it on his channel. He knows all about the placement of the TV screens and the cameras, pushing the buttons so that Ansel can do his special effects.
Yeah.
I can do my directing and saying this. So everybody can do what they're delegated to do, and Todd is in charge of the technical.
It takes an army to bring these productions together, and we have a really good solid team. And Patrick McBride designed our nice poster art banner,
so you're going to be doing the effects, Ansel. That's so cool.
I'm doing some visual designs and some surprises and some things that'll be happening as it's all going on. I don't want to reveal anything, but I know that you guys
spoilers. I got yelled at. I got yelled at for spoilers on this podcast, talking about because I talk about the Dark Shadows storylines and like character development and arcs and all that. And a couple of people messaged me like, "You're spoiling episodes." I was like, "Oh, I thought it's like 50 years."
50 years old.
I said, "I'm sorry. God. I have to put a spoiler warning. There may be spoilers." It is challenging I imagine with the Zoom format. There's pros and cons to it. I mean, obviously the pros are that we can have something like this happen, during a pandemic.
But wait a minute, Danielle, in our case, we're doing this live, essentially. We're getting into this woefully under-rehearsed with 12 actors who have not worked together in 50 some years and in 4 time zones. So there's going to be lag and all sorts of things. And we're all meeting, and we've all rehearsed on our own, and we're all meeting, and we're just going to do it.
Oh,
I
so you
can't-
haven't done the rehearsal together yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's coming up.
I know
It's
Dan.
gonna be
Curtis
just
so
like the
well.
show.
It's just like the show, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be
live,
just like
whatever
live on
happens,
tape.
leave it in, right?
Well, yeah, I know with the,
Dan Curtis would roll over in his grave if he knew we were doing this under rehearsed, and then I'm thinking, Dan Curtis.
do you remember him talking about this idea back then, or was that something that
I only remember it from that evening. I think I sat next to him at the Paley Center for that evening.
Yeah.
And I remember that he said it, and I think somewhere, it lodged in my brain. But Dan would be all for this.
Yeah.
And he wasn't shy about, dumping us into the deep end and hoping we would swim. So I think he'd be fine with what we're doing.
Sure. And there's something.
In fact, I think that he's, if anything, he and certainly his daughters, Kathy and Tracy, would be incredibly proud that we are essentially preserving his legacy by continuing the kind of work that we're doing as a unit. I love it that we're called the Collinsport Players of the Airwaves.
Collinsport Theater of the Airwaves.
Who came up with that?
I came up with that one.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Well, you see, what we have as far as the festivals go, there is a skit group.
I know the Collinsport Players.
Yeah, the Collinsport Players. And
Sure.
I joined it way later on. I came in the late 80s. It was already going. It was Jonathan Harrison, Laura Brodian, Helen Samaras, these people way in the back.
Jeff Thompson too, right?
Jeff Thompson, all
Sure.
of these players. And that was the Collinsport Players, and they were the skit group writing little skits about the people playing the actors.
Yeah.
And the beautiful thing about that, because I've written skits for them, I've been in skits with, is any one of the members of the Collinsport Players can play any one of the roles. So it's like, oh, we need Mrs. Johnson, and she can't do it. Can you do it? All right, I'll be Mrs. Johnson. Just that's the beauty of this. And this production is not the Collinsport Players. What the beauty of this is, everybody has their strength in it. We've got a cast of accomplished actors, many of them with stage, television, all of these things.
Sure.
I'm delegating this. This is not, I'm not a micromanager and say it this way, say it. There's a couple of things in this script that I put in bold face to say, emphasis, but these are professionals.
Sure.
They know what to do. They know how to say their line. I'll say something, but to make sure you speak clearly, because this is not a microphone in your face.
It's a reader's theater event.
It's a reader's theater, but it's not a reader's theater, because a reader's theater, you have a mic right in front of you. Okay. And everybody's in a line. Sure. And you get up and you say, this is, external microphones. Sure. So you have to say every word so that you can overcome that, but that's just text stuff. But as far as the actors, they know what to do. Ansel knows exactly what to do. He saw this. Okay, I have an idea. I'm going to do fine. Patrick made a beautiful graphic, but this gorgeous graphic. You get Todd, who runs the channel and does these Zoom thing. He knows, everybody knows what to do. Sure. And that's the beauty of it, is that when we do come together, we're just letting people do what they know. And there's an energy in that kind of with people who know what they're doing coming together. But there's also that level of spontaneity, because everyone involved is, everyone's reading the script on their own and getting it down, but then coming together for the first time to do that. I've done a lot of improv and sketch over the years, and I was part of a group called Radio Classics, and I performed with John Aston, who was Gomez Addams and the Addams Family, on stage, but I hadn't met him before. So we met, backstage with the group, and we ran the lines. It was, there were old radio shows that we were doing as a reader's theater on stage. And we were backstage, we read at the table, we got, kind of got together, did this, rehearsed it a couple of times, then we went out and did it. And it was a reader's theater, we had the script and we were all in a line, but the sound effects were live, the music was live, everything was just
live. And I love that kind of spontaneity because there's such a magic to that. There's that interchange between the audience and the actors, and just that creation on the spot I love that feeling.
Do you work with Phil Proctor?
No, Bob Bowers.
Okay, all right.
Bob Bowers, yeah. No, it was John Aston. He got John Aston. John
These
Aston came
things
up,
are
and he was lovely.
wonderful. There are several different companies that do this sort of thing, and I love it. I love those radio dramas.
Fun. It's so fun. It's just such a fun, and the audience was really into it as well. Now, I heard Richard. I heard you on Melody Clark's wonderful podcast, Fan Flack, which I just discovered recently, and she's been involved with the fan community for a long time, and was one of the writers on the Dark Shadows companion as well, I think, with Kathy Rush and Marcy Rodman. And so she was talking to you, and you were talking about your favorite versions of A Christmas Carol, like different performances of A Christmas. There are so many, you know, Alistair Sim and Albert Finney, and all of these great Patrick Stewart, I think, did it. Do any? And
Mark DeWidziak.
Mark DeWidziak.
Mark DeWidziak.
Scrooge.
Oh, Mark.
He played Scrooge. I know he does Mark Twain. I didn't know he did Scrooge as well.
Well, oh yeah.
Is he your favorite Scrooge?
Oh, he's simply one of my favorite people.
I have to get him on this show at some point. I think it'd be fun to talk with him. Do any of you have a favorite version? I'll start with Ansel, because I know Ansel's like a huge film buff. So Ansel, do you have a favorite version of A Christmas Carol?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna say the Alistair Sim one. That's the one that's the creepiest. But if we're really gonna be honest, I do have a fondness for Michael Caine and Muppet Christmas Carol.
Yes.
When I was a little kid in the movie theater. I know that was a good one. The two old guys that always complain, that Marley and
Statler and Waldorf.
Yeah. That was a big moment when I was a kid in the movies. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Richard, do you have a favorite?
Well, it's interesting. So many versions are done differently. I mean, there's not one version. They're not all the same. Every version has its own. They take different things from the original book. There was an animated one. It wasn't Mr. Magoo. It was
I was going to say
like a dark animated one. My favorite portion of the story is not always included in any of these adaptations. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And it's not in the radio show either. I mean, that's very cut down. But there's a scene where the ghost of Christmas Present, he has stirrings under his robe, and Scrooge says what, and then he pulls the robe back, and there's these two children, a boy and a girl, and they're emaciated, and they're reaching, and they look like death. And Scrooge says, "Are these your children?" And Ghost says, "These are the children of man." And he says, "The girl is want, the boy is ignorance." He said, "Pity the girl, but beware the boy." Oh, that is the most socially conscious thing in the whole story. And the Ghost of Christmas Present is the most important of the spirits, because he is commenting on Dickens' world of what is evil, what is good, and the people being cruel to each other. And he's showing Scrooge, look, these guys have nothing and they're happy. And then let's go over here. These people have nothing and they're happy. They're making the best of it. And now but that one exchange about the want and ignorance, that's my favorite part. And as I say, that was in an animated one. I don't recall seeing it anyplace else. I would have to say that. And then, of course, we did Austin Powers' Christmas Carol live. Somebody wrote in San Pedro at one of the high schools, and I played that. That was fun.
Was Austin Powers Scrooge?
No, Dr. Evil was Scrooge.
Oh, of course.
And Austin was, Marley was number 2, Robert Wagner part. And then Austin was all the ghosts. Comes in, and did this, so that was kind of fun, but
I love it.
I digress. All right, Kathryn, what would your favorite version be?
Did anybody see the George C. Scott
Ooh, George C. Scott. Yes, I have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've
He was
seen that.
great.
Yeah.
He was great. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you
Yeah.
think of Ansel?
Oh, sorry, you cut out. I saw it. That was the one that we watched in the 8th grade. We had to read Christmas Carol when I was in the 8th grade, and that was the version that we saw at the end of class. I liked it. I mean, you know me, I like to go for the scary thing. I thought it was good, but I want more of the, like, the book is a dark, scary, gothic story, and they do that in the George C. Scott, but I want,
Yeah.
but it's a good film.
The best version of a really scary one. And by the way, we all watched some version of it when we were in school. I think it was the Alistair Sims one that I saw when I was in school. Which do you think is the really scariest, the most truthful to Dickens?
Well, the one that I'd say is actually the scariest was probably the new BBC one with Guy Pearce. I don't know if you saw that, BBC FX.
I saw
And it's a very R-rated, dark, messed up version of Christmas Carol, but it has the real sort of, the seedy underbelly of what Charles Dickens would write, not just limited to Christmas Carol.
Am I very mistaken? Did Charles Laughton ever do it?
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think
that.
no.
If he did, if somebody
Yeah.
if someone like that would have done it,
Maybe he
it
was.
would have been on a radio version of it, which may be.
Or
I don't
stage.
know.
He may have done a stage
Or
version. I mean,
stage
it's
could
possible.
be too,
I
yeah.
love, I'm a sucker for the Albert Finney musical. I
I love
love
that
it.
one.
Thank
That
you
was-
very much. Thank you. I love that word. It's so much fun. And he was great. I love Albert Finney. He's just so much fun to watch in anything. Now there's also, okay, so I know that we can't I guess we can't divulge who's playing who in the show.
No,
Don't say-
absolutely not.
No, okay. Not even a
Did you hear all of
hint.
us start screaming? No.
Okay.
Well, Danielle, what I said on Melody's broadcast
Sure.
was, who do you think is playing who?
Okay.
And we had some interesting choices, and actually one of those people got one of the castings correct.
Okay.
They said, I bet so-and-so is playing so-and-so, and they were right.
Okay. I have theories.
Okay, what's your theory? Let's hear what you think.
Well, first of all, I hope that David Hennessy is playing Tiny Tim. That's I'm just going to say that I hope David Hennessy plays Tiny Tim, even even though he's an adult. Yeah, I just think it would be fun. David Selvey is Scrooge. It's my guess. David Selvey is playing Scrooge. Kathryn is playing the Ghost of Christmas Present, or Mrs. Scrooge in the flashback. The Mrs. Scrooge, the Ghost of Christmas Past. Let me see. No, the Ghost of Christmas Past. I meant not Ghost of Christmas Present. Ghost of Christmas Present is the. I could have pictured Thayer David playing the Ghost of Christmas Present. Actually, I'm thinking Ghost of Christmas Past, maybe Kathryn. Let's see. Mr. Cratchit, Bob Cratchit. I'm going to go with James Storm for that one. Bob Cratchit. Mrs. Cratchit, Marie Wallace. I'm going to guess for that one. And I'm not going to say. That's the extent to which I will go. I'm not going to name everybody, but
those are all great choices. What you said, very good choices. We're just going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Find out. What's what.
Find out.
So,
It'll be a surprise. It will be a surprise. Now, I remember when the Quarantine Theater Company did it was a Halloween Zoom. There were some technical issues with David Hennessy actually toward the end there, and he had to drop out of the call. Is that something that is going to be sort of?
Oh, I've been worried about that. We have 4 different time zones, and I everybody's Wi-Fi connection, dogs barking, lawnmowers. I mean, and anything could happen. We're all in our home environment, so it's a big concern. But we're just everybody is simply going to have to be responsible for their own setup, and that's just the way it's going to have to be.
Yeah.
We're doing our best to ensure it's all gonna, come through smoothly. So.
Right.
Yeah, Ansel is very confident about all of this.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
I gotta be. I'm the resident
All I'm gonna
Sagittarius.
do is
I gotta be optimistic.
No, he's right to be confident. He's right. Look, like I said, we've got someone who's an expert in one behind the scenes thing, which kind of filters into an in front of the scenes thing, which is Ansel. Then we've got Todd,
Yeah.
who, if you say, listen, here's a problem we had before, it was this, and oh, you know what? It's this.
Yeah.
Here's what you need to do, and blah, 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 and that's it. So I am confident. Ansel's. I'm sure Kathryn. I know we're all nailed by which we are, but we're also confident because, as I said, we have the good fortune of having the right people in place to do what it is that they know how to do. And the people that are in other things, they can learn from those people. And, like Todd and Ansel, that's kind of hand in hand because that's all
Todd is a really good
things.
Yeah.
Todd is really good, really helpful with us.
Ansel, is he your neighbor?
He's like he's a couple streets away. We're gonna hang out.
I told Todd about you, and as I was talking to him, he was looking you up, and he said, "Wait a minute, where does he live?" And I said, "He said I think he lives down the street from me." And I said, "Sounds like it."
Yeah. No, we're pretty close by, and just to say, like what Richard's been saying, he's been really helpful and really on top of helping us make sure this is going to be the smoothest production with 5 different time zones and different coasts and all of that. It's gonna be it's Dark Shadows. I mean, what can go wrong? But it's gonna be great. It's gonna be memorable. It's gonna be good.
Wonderful.
I have faith.
Now there's a Q&A portion after this. How is that going to work?
We're all gonna cry and pray and just like go, oh God, it's all falling apart by now.
That isn't going to happen, I promise.
So, there are 12 of us, so it gives each of us a chance to give a holiday greeting and kind of catch up on, and a lot of people are used to, and think about this, Danielle, a lot of people are used to watching us now in the reruns. So they see me 55 years ago, and that'll be the case with all of us. And to suddenly see us as we are now, 50 years later, it actually makes A Christmas Carol that much more poignant, I think. But I think during the Q&A, it's really going to come home to people that, we're still here.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
Still together.
it's
Let's
such a
again.
exactly.
The Collins family endures. These people, they are the Collins family. I'm sorry I interrupted, but they are this cast. They are the Collins family. Like they're not just actors. They are all. You guys are all an actual family. And
you said that when you were on with me last time. You said that.
I've said that because it's the truth. It is the truth. I know it. I fell into this crowd when I was 20, and they've all been so supportive and a real family.
That happened.
I absolutely can sense that. I mean, I've only been to 2 festivals. I wish I had been more actively involved. Growing up, I was kind of introverted, and then I got more into theater, and then I started teaching college and everything. I kind of came out of my shell a bit more. But when I was younger, I did go. I went to a couple of the festivals, and I loved it. But you can sense just the camaraderie between the actors, and you can definitely feel that sense of you went through that together, and it was an experience that's very memorable.
As far as Ansel and Richard are concerned, Richard has been a part of our group for got to be 35, 40 years. I hope I'm not, I think, but when Ansel, Ansel, I'm going to tell this story because I think it's quite extraordinary. Danielle, have you heard this one? I got, as I do, I very often get, I don't know how people find me, but they send me a query, would I be interested in doing their film, you know.
Mhm.
And I got such a thing from young Ansel Faraj. No idea why I responded, but somebody was holding a casting session, that there was a role for me, but he was holding a casting session if I wanted to meet him. And I have no idea what made me do it, but I told me the time and the place. And I drove over to Culver City, and there he was in this very tiny, it was like a little motel room. Actually, it's where Quentin Tarantino does all his casting. It's a little kind of motel arrangement. And he was in one of the rooms, and so I went in and I chatted with him, and there was a very attractive redhead, sort of middle-aged woman sitting next to him. And he said he was directing, and then I turned to her and I said, "And you're," and he piped up and said, "Well, she's my producer." And she looked at me and she said, "I'm his mother."
Oh.
Apparently, they gave the parents, and they're lovely people. His father is an architect, and the two of them gave Ansel a choice of automobile insurance or a budget to do the film. He took the budget. So he and his mother hung his uncle's garage with blue sheets. And we show up. I got Laura involved. I called well that, hey, this will be kind of fun, and you'll play this, and we'll be sisters, and you know, you want to do it. And she said, yeah. So we showed up with our own makeup, our own costumes, wardrobe, and there we are in his uncle's garage with the blue sheets. And he is not only the director, he's the cameraman and the lighting man, and it's a one-man band, a camera the size of a walnut, and he's holding a microphone, and I think he's holding sheets together with the other hand. So we did all of our acting walking in tiny semicircles.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And you know what? I loved it because I kept thinking back, having been to the Hollywood Studio Museum, one of my favorite places in Hollywood. I used to have all of my book signings there because I wanted to draw attention to it. But it's the old Jesse Lasky studio. And he and Bill did Squawman there, which was Joan Bennett's father, Richard Bennett, was in that film. It was the first Hollywood film. And you think of how primitive the equipment was, how, yes, actresses brought in their own ringlets and their own wardrobe. I have to say, there was something sort of enchanting about it.
Yeah, there and it's this is the Theater Fantastique, right?
This was the very first Dr. Mabuse.
The first Dr. Mabuse. Okay, cool.
And just to say something like Kathryn said, yeah, you and Laura, Jerry, they all came into my aunt and uncle's garage with blue curtains.
His uncle had to move his car and
they lost that garage. I turned it into a whole sound stage. But we started there, and then I because of you guys' support and encouragement, I got to have you on location in Minnesota in a real parsonage playing David's wife in 1880.
Yes.
And you know, without all that, we got to start somewhere. And now here we are on the internet.
And that stuff is cool.
Dan
like
Kirsten's dream.
It's totally awesome. If you go to hollinsworthproductions.com or to the Hollinsworth Productions YouTube channel, Ansel has a lot of his stuff on there, and it's really amazing. I mean, just with what you had to work with.
I will tell you, we were fierce with him. Jerry Lacey kept saying, we have a contract, could you do this? Pushing him.
I learned a lot.
What about noir? And what about this? And I mean, we were fierce. We were We were very pushy with you, Ansel.
It was the best. It was the best film school that I could ever have gotten. I never went to film school. I went to the Dark Shadows School of Filmmaking. So, that's the best. Learning the trenches, just like everybody learned from Dan. So, it's perfect. It's synchronicity.
Right.
And now as I said, here we are on the internet fulfilling Dan's dream, and none of that would have been possible without Kathryn randomly opening that email that I sent her when I was 20. So
yeah. Now you, of course, the Collinsport Theater of the Airwaves. Now, can we? Now, of course, we're not going to have something at this level with this many cast members, as you said, Kathryn. But can we expect potentially future Collinsport Theater of the Airwaves shows to come in future months and years?
What do you think, Kathryn? I listen, anything is possible.
Mm-hmm.
As Kathryn said, there are other actors from the cast who were not able to join, or whatever reason they couldn't come.
Mm-hmm.
This, like last year, is a trailblazing thing. This is a new frontier, a new thing. Will this work? We can't do live festivals right now. Gosh knows if we'll ever do live festivals again. We did a live festival online with people sitting next to what do we do with a festival? We do Q&A. Well, let's bring on the people. That on the one end went very well. There were some glitches that, it didn't. Let me put it to you this way. Really, except for David Hennessy's phone, that's minor. Yeah. Nothing, like they say, nobody out front knew what was going on, so the people watching got this really good presentation.
Yeah.
And whatever was back, which we found as, this was this, it still came off as a success. It's still up there. It's still posted. And it's a good thing it is, because we had Christopher Pennock in that thing in Halloween, and he passed away in February.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and
sad.
We would love to have had him in this production, any production. He was a wonderful man.
Yeah.
And that footage of him remains up there, for people to see. One of his final film performance. And then I think, Ansel, didn't you have him in something that was released?
Yeah, he did his very last performance for me in October. We did the Most Haunted House of Venice speech.
Oh my God, I cried at the end of that. I got teary-eyed at the end of that.
He was a perfect monologue to end, I think, a run.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, Kathryn, what are your feelings on the state of the future of this? This is, and also because not only did we do this thing last year, that play that you did, which was written for this format, it was written to be performed in Zoom,
mm-hmm.
and it was very good. So that's a plus. What do you think about future endeavors of this nature, in your opinion?
I have a number of original radio scripts from the 1930s. I don't know what the copyright situation is, but those would be really fun to do. Yeah. And I love the idea. I love the idea of what Todd is doing. Todd Felderstein does, he does all of these original pieces that are written for Zoom.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way I would like to work, because it's things are written for Zoom or adapted for Zoom, and they really stand on their own. I've watched now several of the things that he's done, aside from the Expendables that I did with Mitch and Susan and David, and the quality is really pretty good. There are limitations, of course, but I think one can adapt. I love the idea of Reader's Theater. So with the Dark Shadows actors, yes, I mean, Lisa Richards is so wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
And Sharon and Terrain, Donna McKechnie, it would be lovely to bring them in as well, and really cast from our pool of Dark Shadows actors to do some different productions. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
We've
They-
certainly learned from this experience, so I think the next one can just be better.
yeah, and you could. There are so many of those classic radio shows that could be adapted, especially if you went,
Oh,
if you did a Halloween like Witch's Tale or Inner Sanctum or something fun like that. That
yeah,
would be,
and these are from Colgate. I mean, they're quite wonderful. A friend of mine in England who wrote and produced a number of these.
mhm.
He died 25 years ago, but he gave them to me. They're written on foolscap, I mean, or typed,
Yeah.
and quite amazing. And I keep thinking of, pulling them out of my pocket and seeing if we
Yes.
can.
Yeah. Oh, it'd be so fun. And like you said, there's shows now that are being written for. I did a local community theater show it was called 101 Ways to Survive Life in Quarantine, and it had a pretty large cast, but it was all Zoom. They recorded each of the segments through Zoom. This was at the beginning of the pandemic, and then they kind of stitched them together into a show, and it was a fun kind of way to do it. I had a few little technical glitches on my end when I did it. This was like right at the beginning of the pandemic when I first started using Zoom, but yeah, these shows are being created now for this format. And you mentioned, smartphone theater. I just watched the interview with Mitchell Ryan.
Yeah, it was very good.
It was great. And Susan Sullivan and Lisa Richards both piped in with questions during that was really great.
Leave it to Susan.
She was funny.
I know. Mitch called me the next day. I adore Mitch. We do all keep in touch. Nancy and I talk all the time, and I think Mitch has called me at least twice this week, and Marie and Laura, of course. We're really very close.
Wonderful.
So
They are a family. They are a
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
It's real. Colin's family.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to see, Mitch Ryan and David Hennessy and Alexandra Mulkey-Isles participating in this, because over the years, we'd see Mitchell Ryan did a few interviews for the DVDs. I think he went to one of the festivals. David Hennessy, did that interview with you, and every once in a while, I think he'd sent a message to the Dark Shadows news page to say how he was doing. But it's good to see them actively participating. I'd love to see more of the actors, the ones you mentioned, like Terrian Crawford and Donna Wandry, Kate Jackson, and there are so many. I know John Lassell, or is it Lassell or John Lassell? He played Dr. Guthrie during the first year of Dark Shadows with the glasses and the Laura Collins storyline. I think he's in his 90s, but he doesn't really do interviews or anything like that. But I believe he's still with us. I believe, yeah, because we've lost some of the act, like Robert Rodan passed away recently, and Chris Pennock. So it's sad, that we're losing so many. Like Chris Pennock was such a dynamo. I mean, I was just taught. Rod Labby was on the last episode of this podcast, and we were talking about just his energy, and I never had the opportunity to meet him in person, sadly. I know Ansel also talked about him when you were on the show, and actually I got chided by somebody because you were using you had a potty mouth in that episode because you were quoting no, that's okay. I kind of believed you, but somebody was like, that was bad language. I was like, whatever. But it was you were quoting
Chris's words, not mine.
Quoting Chris Pennock. So it was just I wish I had the opportunity to have met Chris Pennock, but it's so great that these actors from the show are coming together to do this. So I'd like to move on, just have a few fun Dark Shadows related questions for all of you, just to kind of just geek out a little bit here, have some questions here. I'm gonna start with Richard here. Richard, what is your favorite Dark Shadows storyline and character?
Well, I would have to say my favorite is the 1795, because this is where you get the backstory, even though that changes as they go back. Now it's 1797, and now, and then of course, when Barnabas first comes in, he's talking about things that happened and they were together for years, but now they were only together for a few weeks. That's the history changes, But I do like that the best because you see, it's always alluded to when the Barnabas storyline starts, and then they have that party where they all dress up like their counterparts in the old days. It's hard to say my favorite character because there's so many, and of course, several of the actors played so many different characters. So I don't have an answer for that one, but I do think my favorite story, as I said, must have been the 1795 one.
That's an excellent choice. Awesome. Ansel. All right. So you are the master of filmmaking. So, and Dark Shadows has appeared in many mediums, television, of course, film, of course. We have the audio dramas from Big Finish, which Kathryn participates in quite frequently, and I enjoy listening to you in those. There's now we have internet streaming. Is there we've even had an off-Broadway play this was in the 80s. There was an off-Broadway Dark Shadows play of the 1795 storyline, actually, which I wish I had seen that. So, Ansel, is there any medium that you would like to see Dark Shadows sort of manifest in some form? Or have I covered everything just now?
I mean, well, let's go. Let's see what's going on in Collinsport today. That's all I can say.
Yeah, Mark B. Perry. He's going to be on the show soon. I have him coming up pretty soon to talk about Dark Shadows reincarnation. So I'm curious to hear his thoughts on that. So, do you have any intel on that, Ansel?
I don't understand.
Enough said.
It's
enough
gonna be
said.
cool.
Okay.
It'll be cool.
Okay. Yeah,
Fun.
I'm not concerned. I mean, Mark is a hardcore Dark Shadows fan. I mean, on his Instagram, he has the Dark Shadows like quote of the day. You know,
right. Yeah,
he's been doing that lately.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the recent Jonathan Fritz documentary as well, which was sensational. It was a really touching documentary about Jonathan's love of theater and passion for theater. Kathryn. Okay, so I've listened to interviews. I've listened to interviews with Alexandra where she expressed that she would have enjoyed playing a different kind of character on the show. She would have liked playing a villain or a monster in the show. Is there any type of character or archetype that you would have enjoyed playing in Dark Shadows that you didn't get the opportunity to play?
The four characters that I played were really very different.
Yeah.
Because they were in different, time eras.
Mhm.
No, I really enjoyed playing Maggie. The truth is, some of our best acting work was when we first went on the show and before we started acting, put it that way. We yeah, I mean, you really do have to learn not to act. So I'm very fond of the first 6 months of the show. Maybe that's odd because the first 6 months of the show are the episodes that are very often left off in the reruns. But I really liked the first 6 months, and I really loved Maggie's relationship with the vampire when he first appears, when Barnabas Collins first appears. Those are my favorite episodes.
Sure.
When Maggie, the waitress, who's very much an outsider, instead of closing up the diner, takes off her coat and brews another pot of coffee in the Silex and sits and talks to this stranger new to town. And you can see the chemistry. I know that Dan saw the chemistry. It was the beginning of Dan considering what he could do with those two characters. And I mean, I know that for a fact. So I'm very fond of that. I'm very fond of that time and the fact that Jonathan came on the show fully formed as Barnabas Collins with the cane, the hair, the voice, the manner. He was fully formed as Barnabas, which was really impressive. It's difficult to come in with a show that's already up and running.
Sure.
So I'm very fond of that, and it was great fun. I mean, to play the conniving Kitty Soames,
Yes.
we have here to play Rachel. who was very different from Maggie, the governess. Maggie had no business being a governess anyway. I mean, she was, and there's no indication that she did anything but graduate perhaps from high school. But no teaching credentials. She was never once seen in front of a blackboard, never once seen giving a lesson. I have no idea what that was about. But Richard was a governess, and Maggie was essentially the main squeeze of the vampire.
Was it different? Was it difficult going from the TV show to doing the film at the same time? Well, you left for a while. The main,
No,
cast
now
members.
that's the interesting thing. There were, I didn't realize it until Leonard Maltin pointed it out. That I'm in more scenes than Jonathan.
Oh, wow.
He said, you realize that Maggie stars in House of Dark Shadows? And I said, well, no. And he said, watch it sometime and just see how often you're on camera. I thought, no, that's interesting, because she is the moral center of that film.
Sure.
But you never thought that when you were working with Dan Curtis, you were very much a part of his ensemble. And so there was never any sense of that ever, even with Joan Bennett, who was a bona fide movie star. But Jonathan and I were the only two who were in the film so much that we were not able to do the television series. And that's when David Selby started doing the heavy lifting on the series, because Jonathan was simply not available.
Right.
And I was not available to play Maggie or Josette. So that was an interesting period of time. And the transition as a young actress from doing television, live, it was protective acting. I mean, you knew you had one shot, and you played it safe.
Yeah.
And I remember Dan Curtis and then Joan Bennett taking me aside and saying, they'll do a close-up, Joan said, and save yourself for that. And just remember, you don't have to put everything into the first take. And, just little things that she would say to me. And Dan, too, said, we do coverage, Kathryn, so these were things that the young actors weren't aware of.
Yeah.
Laura Parker, David Selby, Kate Jackson, Nancy Barrett, Joel Crowther. We'd never done film before.
Sure. Yeah.
And it wasn't like I think young David Hennessy had more experience than anybody, aside from Joan Bennett and some of the senior actors.
Grayson, yeah.
So it's a long answer to what you're saying, but no, I'm pretty damn lucky with the roles that I was given to play.
Yeah.
And that the writers wrote to my strengths.
Yeah. One of my favorite sequences with Maggie, besides the early Barnabas episodes, was when your character, when Maggie starts to remember what happened to her. This was like a year after the events with Barnabas, where he kidnaps Maggie Evans. She starts to remember, and there are these scenes with John Carlin in the secret room of the mausoleum it's like watching an intense black box theater show between the two of you, where your memories are coming back and you remember, it. And John Carlin is terrified that your character is now remembering all of this. It was just sensational. Absolutely sensational. It's just riveting to watch that. Definitely.
We had wonderful actors on the show, which was a gift for the young actors. Imagine being able, in your very first job, to be working with people like that.
Yeah.
And all I can say is that being able to work with Johnny Carlin and Mitch Ryan, those were some of my best days. They were both amazing to work with.
Yeah.
Everybody was terrific. But I also have to say, Joan Bennett and I became very close, especially later in life, her life. And but on the show, how often she would take me aside and just little gentle little things that I'm afraid to quote because they sound so insignificant, but they certainly aren't to a young actress in the moment when you're still learning your craft and so many things that you haven't experienced yet. And she was wonderful. She was really wonderful.
Yeah, that's amazing. For those who may not know, I get this question periodically from new fans or people who are going back to watching Dark Show because it's on the streaming platforms like Tubi, Amazon Prime, etc. And they have branded MPI or World Vision has branded the early Dark Shadows episodes, the first 10 months of the show, as Dark Shadows, the beginning. Okay, those are the pre-Barnabas episodes. The Barnabas episodes, if you go to Dark Shadows on Tubi, the first episode for Dark Shadows is Barnabas coming out of the coffin. But if you go to Dark Shadows, the beginning, you will get the first 10 months of the show, and you'll get a lot of Mitchell Ryan, because Mitchell Ryan is in a little bit when Barnabas comes in. He's in it for, a couple of months, and then Anthony George takes over. But if you watch those first 10 months of the show, you will see a lot of
those are my favorite. The first 10 minutes of the show are my favorite.
Oh, they're great. Yeah, they're fantastic. Very eerie, and the hints of the supernatural gradually start getting introduced. I mean, it's spooky from the beginning. There are metaphorical references to ghosts. Is it a metaphor? Is it real? You don't see until a couple months in, and then you gradually, it's like bubbling beneath the surface.
So Schofield playing the ship's captain. Yeah.
Oh, he was great. He was Bill Malloy. Yeah, the character he played was. I wish Dan had brought him back to the show as to play another character later on, because he was really good. Definitely. Wonderful. Okay. Closing thoughts here. I want to put this out there. Richard, since you have been involved in the Dark Shadows festivals over the years, what are the chances of seeing another Dark Shadows festival? Because I keep hearing rumors, the 50th anniversary was the last one, and that makes me sad. So Jim Pearson, if you're listening, you got to do another festival. If not, someone else will do it. Like Ansel Faraj will do it. I nominate. I'm putting you on the spot.
I'll do a movie instead. No.
Yeah. You think this is hard? How do you do a festival? No.
Convention. Putting on a convention is no joke. It's no joke. That's a lot of work.
It's hard. And listen, the last live thing we had planned was already in place. Was April of either 2020 or 2019. Whenever John passed away, that we're going to have a life celebration for John Carlin at the Vista Theater, who at the time was owned by Lance Alspa, a very big Dark Shadows fan, and had the forecourt of that theater has footprints in cement of the casts of both of the Dark Shadows films and several other things. There was supposed to be a life celebration for people to come in. And of course, COVID hits. That's done. So everything just kind of went by the wayside of it. And my first inclination to resurrect anything would have been, why don't we do an online festival or something reminiscent of a festival? And Jim Pearson wasn't really, I couldn't get a straight answer as far as, he didn't seem to want to be, committed with something like that, and was pointing out, well, we can't do this, and these people are this. So your guess is as good as mine. I'll tell you, if we do it again, I'm sure it's going to be different, because I have seen other groups doing live festivals, and you've got these plastic barriers up in front of you got the autograph table. Now, Kathryn, you're very prominent in all aspects of the live festival. There's a panel on stage. There's the dealer's room with people signing autographs. So you've got, now I've seen, you've got this banner up, this barrier, it's clear plastic. Then I've also seen people taking photographs. There is a plastic wall between
Yeah.
you, but you're
Yeah.
still in the picture, you know.
Right.
There are ways to do these things, you know.
Well,
I
when
know
things
it's- I
get
know
better,
it's not,
when things get better, when things improve. with
when
the
things get better, yes, I
Wait
would
a minute,
hope.
you know, Richard, I've done 3 things now since COVID. One of them was at Seaview Terrace.
I
spent a
just
weekend.
missed you.
Yes.
I was there the 23rd and I missed you.
Yes, but that was with a, you know, a very small group.
Yeah.
Everybody, you know, we all knew everybody had been vaccinated and
Sure.
whatnot. And then I also did something at Lindhurst. And by the way, a replica that Michael Hanna made of the ball gown that I wear in House of Dark Shadows, I've donated it to Lindhurst. It's on display now in the Blue Room, and it's quite lovely. I'm so better there than hanging in my closet.
Yeah.
But I did sign books, and I spoke, and Lindhurst. I have to say that place is so beautifully run, and they worked it out so that, you know, I felt safe, and everybody coming to see me felt safe. But to do it in a I don't know what Chiller Theater is doing. I think they did have an event. It just sounds to me like a super spreader.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's just too dangerous to do it like we did.
And by the way, I hate to say this, but it happens to be true, that I'm one of the younger of the Dark Shadows actors. I don't know that that's safe, having people of a certain age exposed in that way.
Sure.
I
Definitely.
think about that,
Yeah. Yeah.
or not, or don't think about it.
No, we
No,
should
you're
definitely
absolutely
think
correct.
about it.
That is correct. And this is
Yeah.
what the concerns were, because you have to understand too, besides we have people of a certain age on stage, a good portion of the audience, the fandom, the viewers, there are a lot of special needs people. There are a lot of handicapped, challenged, physically challenged people. There are autism. There's all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
Some of these things have immunocompromised things going on.
Yeah.
These people. So your audience is not necessarily 100%. You know, so you're absolutely right, Kathryn. And as I say,
More.
say again.
I could not agree more. That's what I was saying.
Well,
You know, to make me feel safe, but also the people coming to see me, make them feel safe.
yeah,
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
I don't know that it's worth it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we
now
could
is
even
not the
do it.
time. Now is not the time.
no, it's not the time.
I'm thinking down the road. That's what
Well,
my
down the
thoughts
road
were. My
is
thoughts
down the
were
road, but
the
you
future.
got
You know?
it through. Also, like she said,
Yeah.
you've got a lot of physical things that some of these things are not going to change.
Sure.
Even if you put a mask on, you still have something, and if we do it again, if you know, I'm certain it would be in some scaled down thing. I'm sure the Lindhurst and the Seaview, that was a small. Hey, Kathryn, do you remember when we were down on Coronado Island? We did a festival. I drove you home.
That was for
the
Mabuse premiere.
That
Oh.
was, yes, that's
Awesome.
right. But it was a very small group.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm open to that. I'm open to
Yeah.
that.
A small, limited number of people. We could do something like that, but you're right. There's a lot of factors.
I
We
will
wanna
say-
protect.
I honestly think that it's doing something like what we're doing with Christmas Carol, these online events, is probably more rewarding, not only for the fans, because anybody can access them, anybody can attend them, but also for the cast members. Like, we're doing something fresh and different. Sure. And we, you know, if we continue to do radio shows and whatnot, it's not the same of, hey, everybody, here we are again. What have you been doing? You know, the same question. Let's progress Dark Shadows forward. And
Absolutely,
if the online route is the best way,
And you are working in a Q&A portion.
Yeah.
You are doing that. So there is that aspect to it, but I get what you're saying. And I liked the Seaview event. I missed you, Kathryn. I'm sorry. I wanted to meet you, but I was there. I couldn't go on Halloween weekend, but I did go the 23rd and the 24th. And I hung out with Bob Issel and Helen Samaras and Guy Haynes and that gang. And they're so nice. And I had such a great time, And it's just a remarkable house. I've seen it I grew up in Massachusetts, so it's not too far away. So I've seen it many times, but to be inside the house and to actually see it from within was really amazing.
By the way, I've posted this on Facebook, but there's a fellow named Gary Lawrence who is doing a New York Adventure Club. Have you seen my post about it? He's doing the Dark Shadows Gilded Mansions.
Oh, cool!
No,
that's great.
It's on the web. It's on my Facebook page. You have to sign up, but it's on my Facebook page. I put it up a while ago, and I know Nina Ogle Johnson is, and Bob Eisel.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and I think Patrick McCrae and Patrick de Blasi. So yeah.
Oh, great. And I heard something recently, your website, KathrynLeighScott.com. Now you have your books available through your website, correct?
I do. A lot of the books are no longer available. I wish Jim Pearson would give me the rights to republish the music book, Bob Cobert's music.
It's a great book.
Even if somebody, and I don't want exclusive, but even if somebody else does a book, the book that I have done is totally Dark Shadows centric. It doesn't have Winds of War and all the rest of it. So I would love it if he would give me, Dan Curtis Estate would give me the license to bring that book out again. It's the book that gets requested the most. And I'd love to do that. But some of the books have been out for 30 years. So what's available is now on the website.
Wonderful. And that's KathrynLeighScott.com. Ansel, your films, how can people get I meant HollinsworthProductions.com, correct?
HollinsworthProductions.com, and you can see Kathryn and David in Loon Lake, which is streaming on Tubi TV and Amazon Prime and the Roku channel and on Blu-ray. HollinsworthProductions.com also has all the links for Blu-rays and DVDs and Chris Pennock shorts, and basically you can see all the Dark Shadows cast members in brand new ventures, and Hollinsworth Productions, HOLLINSWORTH, no G.
Splendid.
That's my spiel.
Awesome. And Richard, I was watching, I got sucked into watching your YouTube videos as Austin Powers and your singing as well, which is awesome and remarkable, and I loved it. So tell me about how can people find you online and find out more?
Tin Pan Alley, yes, indeed. That's another. See, this is a Kathryn story.
Okay, go for it.
No, this is great. I'm very good friends with Vince Giordano. Vince Giordano and the Nighthawks, the 1920s, 30s band, orchestra that plays in New York City. One year we're in town for the festival. I go to see them at Charlie O's, and who's this? Kathryn and Jeff, or her husband, who passed away, the nicest man. We miss him so much. And I said, what? She said, Richard, what are you doing? I said, are you a jazz fan? Well, Jeff is a jazz fan and brought me to this. And Kathryn still is a fan of Vince and Danny Levinson, some of the people in it. So that's how that got started. But as far as finding me online, my Instagram is RIC Halpern, RICHALPERN is that one for singing. And if you're interested in Austin Powers impersonator, that's my other Instagram, Austin Powers impersonator, all one word. And YouTube, I think it's just Richard Halpern for the singing. And speaking of YouTube, Baby Dark Shadows, the videos, the famous videos from the 80s and the early 90s, 88 to 1991. There were 4 epics shot by babies that my niece and nephews, and they are on there streaming.
Is that your nephew playing Barnabas?
Well, a couple of them played Barnabas.
Okay,
yeah, my
okay.
oldest and the youngest
Okay.
both played Barnabas.
Okay.
My niece
He's
is
on
the one
point.
who played. I'm sorry?
He's on point. Oh, the child I saw playing Barnabas, I was like, wow, he's really into it.
Well, yeah, they're all four of those kids were ham bones, like their uncle, you know. But yeah, you got you got a little baby Barnabas, because grown-up Barnabas had a hissy fit and stormed out, and so we used the baby. So he's Barnabas in one of the episodes. My niece played all the women except for Julia, or what's her Countess DuPres, which has to be played by a man, unless it's Grayson, you know. So anyway, but those are up there streaming. We do an 1897 storyline, which was the first one. The second one was 1795. The third one was Dream Curse, and the fourth one was done on location at Greystone, where they shot the 1991 series, and that was just called Sarah. Okay. And then that's it. So those kids they're grown up now. My niece is married. She has her own little boy who is 10 years old, but he doesn't want his picture taken. He is not, look at me. He's not that at all. Okay. But that's that. So you can see those on there. And of course, the fall that my niece wore, she had to have that fall because she saw Maggie with a fall, or Josette. What is this thing under her head? Yeah. It's called a fall. It's like a big clip. She would not let that go until we got her this fall. And it's funny, Kathryn, if you remember at the Women's Club, the Hollywood Dark Shadows Festival we did, what did you auction off? That fall.
Oh, wow.
I should have got it for her. So that's it. That's where you can find me, you know. Okay. You know, go on Instagram.
What would Austin Powers say about Dark Shadows: A Christmas Carol? What would his reaction be if because he was in the 60s? Maybe he watched Dark Shadows. I mean,
oh well, listen, you know, Austin Powers is also in a skit called The Spy Who Bit Me. And it was actually his hand that came up with a frilly lace cuff, strangling Willie, played by John Carlin on stage. By the way, what would he say? I think it's, you know, Christmas Carol is groovy. I love Dark Shadows, baby. Dark Shadows under my eyes. Carlin's fault. That's what it's all about, baby. Don't forget to miss it. Don't forget to see it. Don't miss it. Don't forget to be there.
Shagadelic.
I say,
Kathryn's fault. I got no hair left. Damn.
You got what? What did you say?
I said I need Kathryn's fault because I don't have any hair anymore.
Well, let's find out who. Hey, don't come to me. Don't come to me.
Wonderful. All right, folks. All right, Kathryn, can you give us your closing thoughts here about reuniting with your castmates to do this this sure to be legendary event coming up?
I can't think of anything else like it. The fact that we're getting together with actors that we worked with 55 years ago, and we're working again, doing something live, which is what we started out doing. I think it's an incredible event. I'm so glad. I don't know how many people are allowed to sign up, but we've got a huge reserved audience for this. Yeah. So. We're going to have an amazing audience, and I'm thrilled that we're doing it.
We're going to break the internet, either on our side or their side.
Now, I didn't know you had to. Do I have to sign up to be in this, to watch this?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just that a lot of people are.
Okay.
And it's getting big.
Okay. This is going to be epic, folks. You do not want to miss this. Thank you so much to my guests.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for being
I'll see you anon.
Soon.
Yes, indeed. Anon. Oh, I like that. I like that. Oh, Sunday, December 19th, everyone. Anon. We shall all be there and enjoying this. It's going to be happening via the Smartphone Theater Company webpage and YouTube channel. I'll put a link in the show notes for this episode. Please be sure to like, Be sure to subscribe to this podcast. I am delighted to see the numbers for this podcast growing. Please be sure to subscribe. Please be sure to review the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Prime, Spotify, wherever you subscribe to your podcast. This is all about celebrating dark shadows and keeping the candles lit at the old house. So let's keep it going, folks. And thank you so much for listening.
I got one last postscript.
Yeah.
Since it's a live show and we got our live Q&A, for anybody that wants to ask a question to the cast, check out our Facebook event page, Dark Shadows: A Christmas Carol. I've started a thread where it says, post your questions to the cast here. Richard and I will be asking them to our 12 Dark Shadows performers. That's the spot to ask your questions, and it's gonna be epic.
And for as long as they lived, the dark shadows never truly dissipated, for there will always be terror at Collinwood. Terror at Collinwood is a Penny Dreadful production.